The Member Support Manager and Activism Coordinator for the National Federation of Independent Business in Boston and in Providence. As the voice of small businesses nationwide and in Rhode Island, NFIB keeps a close eye on legislation that affects small businesses, whether it comes from Washington or right here from the General Assembly. Chris and his team do the legislative legwork on behalf of the small business owners to keep them informed and up to date. Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Carlozzi.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Carlozzi, and I'm with the National Federation of Independent Business, or NFIB. For those of you unfamiliar with us, NFIB is a non-profit, non-partisan organization, as well as the nation's and Rhode Island's largest small business advocacy group. In Rhode Island, NFIB represents hundreds of small and independent business owners involved in all types of industry, including manufacturing, retail, wholesale, service, and agriculture. The average NFIB member has 5 to 6 employees and gross revenues of about half $500,000. In short, NFIB represents the small Main Street business owners from across the state. NFIB has made a commitment to our 350,000 small business owners nationwide to fight the unconstitutional new health care law. Our battle began in the halls of Congress. We thought we won that battle when NFIB-endorsed candidate Scott Brown won his long-shot bid for U.S. Senate and provided the key 41st vote to stop the bill. Our victory was short-lived, and the legislation was rammed through Congress with the promise of federally funded projects in key vote states for senators that were on the fence. Small business owners were devastated when the president signed this bill into law. They knew that this would hinder their ability to keep costs down for their businesses and further prevent new workers from being hired in times of economic recession. Our nation's small businesses were already suffering. This law was just the nail in the proverbial coffin. But as I said, NFIB is dedicated to exhausting all options on behalf of our members. The fight has moved from Congress to the courts. On May 14th, NFIB joined the federal lawsuit against this law with 20 state governments. Small business now stands shoulder to shoulder with governors, attorneys general, and other state officials to have this health care law declared unconstitutional. As I mentioned earlier, NFIB is a nonpartisan organization. Our membership is comprised of business owners whose voting records and voter registrations include Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and every party under the sun. Their views may differ politically, but they overwhelmingly agree that this new law is bad for business in Rhode Island and throughout the nation. New taxes and paperwork requirements included in the law all increase the cost of providing health insurance and of doing business. Any law that adds expense to operating a business will further harm our nation's suffering economy. How can business get to the point of starting to hire again? Small businesses employ 90% of the workforce and creates 2/3 of the new jobs every year. This law compounds the burdens and overhead that prevent businesses from growing and creating new jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, this healthcare law is indeed historic, a term many of the law's supporters have used to describe it. It's the first time in history that the federal government has demanded individuals purchase a product and threatened to penalize those individuals if they don't act. Requiring citizens to buy a particular product is contrary to everything our nation stands for. Forcing individuals to buy insurance coverage you may not want or need. Don't get me wrong, NFIB wants to see healthcare reform, but real reform. After months of debate on this issue that has made healthcare unattainable for many, the big issue was never addressed: cost. When will the federal government learn that if a product is affordable, people will buy it? Perhaps if a more competition and free market principles were allowed to exist in the healthcare system, cost would be lower and more businesses would buy the product. Nothing in this new law addressed the issue of cost. Yet supporters of this new law claimed and continue to claim that healthcare costs will indeed drop. If you haven't noticed from my accent so far, I'm from Massachusetts. You may have heard that in 2006, we passed a similar healthcare law. In fact, the national law is said to have been modeled after what Massachusetts passed. That makes us the canary in the coal mine. I'll let you in on a little secret. That canary stopped chirping some time ago. Our NFIB members in Massachusetts, who were also told their premiums would decrease, often call with horror stories about double-digit premium increases, sometimes as much as 30%, 40% annual increases or higher. Healthcare costs are usually their #1 expense. They are preventing their businesses from growing. Also, Massachusetts elected officials keep on piling coverage mandates and are too blind to see that all of these add-ons are further driving up premiums. You can bet that Massachusetts politicians are not at all unique, and we will soon see these types of mandate bills being debated in the U.S. Congress. In Rhode Island, more than 90% of the workforce is employed by a small business. This law in no way encourages those businesses to grow or hire new employees in these times of economic distress. As you are well aware, Rhode Island's unemployment rate is one of the worst in the nation. This new law adds to the already existing burdens of running your own business. Many businesses will be forced to reevaluate whether or not they can afford to keep their doors open with the added cost of this new mandate. You can be certain that if your local dry cleaner or hardware store was going out of business, they would not be afforded the same federal bailouts to stay in business as the auto industry or big banks received. For them, closed is closed, and that means the Ocean State unemployment rate will further skyrocket. How many of Rhode Island's businesses will be forced to lay off workers, reduce staff to meet payroll? In my opinion, losing one job in this volatile economy is one job too many. Congress should have acted to reduce the mandates and regulations that are strangling our small businesses and preventing them from creating new jobs. We need to drive people from the unemployment lines to the workplace, not the other way around. Instead, this bill rewards business owners with new paperwork requirements that place enormous tax filing burdens squarely on their shoulders. The cost of complying with the new filing requirements will further chip away at Rhode Island small business owners' bottom lines in a year that has already proved trying for that business owner to stay afloat. We at NFIB are going to continue the fight to challenge the constitutionality of this so-called healthcare reform law. We will work on behalf of our small business owners to uphold our mission statement to protect our members' right to own, operate, and grow their own businesses. We owe it to them, and we owe it to America. The only way to turn this economy around is to ensure the nation's largest employers, small business, is thriving. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.